Hi, Stephen. Thanks for this. Let's have a look. Introduction, historical context. Yeah. Okay, don't get too complicated in this historical context section. That's not a good title, but what you can talk about there is just how Australia's moved from deficit to surplus and how the bulk of that change seems to be a result of the trade balance. So make sure the reader in this section understands that the current account balance is equal to the trade balance and the net income balance. And you could probably give some basic guidance as to what is in the trade balance. You could say that it's just Australia's exports minus Australia's imports, and net income balance, that's just sort of dividend and interest payments. Yeah, but say that most of the move from deficit to surplus is an improvement in the trade position. So our exports relative to our imports have expanded significantly. Then what is the balance of payments? Yeah, okay. A bit too early to include that. Then you got the current account balance negative. Yeah, open economy. Yeah, it's kind of getting there. Yeah, it's this section here that is going to be very difficult to write. Basically, I think the way to go here is, first of all, present the table. And that's this table down here. Now, I would have the trade balance. I'd sort of have that at maybe, say, 20, and that at sort of, hang on, 10, something like that. And I've decreased the font size to match the smaller font size there, something like that. Yeah, so present the table. When you present the table, talk about what the trade balance of 20 means. It means exports are $20 billion greater than imports. And just give the reader an idea of what the 10 means. That means inflows of dividend and interest payments from overseas is $10 billion greater than outflows. So once you've kind of discussed the overall structure of the balance of payments, then give some, talk about the numbers. What a lot of people do is they just present a table like this and they just leave it up to the reader to magically figure out what these numbers mean. You've got to explain what these numbers actually mean. So once you've explained the table, then focus on the capital financial account. So yeah, once you've kind of run through what the table represents, okay, so then the next bit, you're going to explain what the 30, the 20, and the 10 mean in the current account. Then the next thing, you're going to explain what the minus 30 means in the capital financial account. And when you do that, you're going to use this equation. Net capital outflow. Okay, so what you're going to do is just say, well, that minus 30 means we've got excess savings, that those excess savings are flowing overseas in the form of foreign investment. And you can do it this way. Just imagine, say to the reader, imagine we've got a hypothetical economy. Don't use these words. Savings are 500, investments 470. The first 470 of those savings fund our own domestic investment. We've got $30 left over. That flows out of the country into foreign markets. That's why it's in the capital account. Sorry, that's why it's in the financial account. That's why it's a negative number there. You've got a hyphen there for a negative number. It should be an N dash, a longer dash. So then the reader understands that. Then in the next section, or the next thing that you do, probably in the next section, is explain why S minus I equals the current account balance using the open economy model. Okay, and then you can move on to explaining why we move from deficit to surplus. But if you have a look at what I've got there, it's actually carefully thought out and it's sequenced quite well. So you're presenting this table to the reader so they can see that that's you can't write that annual as a title. You're going to have to find something else. But you're going to present the table first. This is the balance of payments. It's got a current account, it's got a capital financial account, sums to zero, et cetera, et cetera. Then you're going to explain the current account balance. So what the 30, the 20, and the 10 mean, like I've said before. Then you're going to explain the minus 30, and you're going to do that using that equation, savings minus investment equals net capital outflow. And so savings is 500, investments 470, net capital outflow is 30. So it's an outflow, so it's a negative number. Then the final piece of the puzzle is explaining why that number, the 30, equals the 30 there, but of opposite sign. And you can do that using the open economy model. So see what I've done there? I've actually worked my way through the table in those 4 dot points, presented the table in its entirety, explained the 30, explain the minus 30 there, and then I've explained why 30 and 30 are equal using the open economy model. Now, if I went through what you've got here, I'm guessing it's going to be quite random in terms of the sequence in which you go through things. And I'm just having a quick scan through all of this, and it does look a little bit, a little bit random. What you've got here, you've got the current account balance, you've got the trade balance, which is fine. But then you've got the net income balance and net transfers balance, which isn't consistent with what you've got here. So I would just call this the income balance like that, lowercase that. Okay, and just talk about the trade balance, exports and imports, income balance. Just simplify it. You don't need all of the detail. Just say that the income balance is dividend payments and interest payments. Is there more in the income balance than that? Of course there is. Does the reader need to know that there's more? Not really. And so all of this, all the text you've got, present it like that. And you're going to have, I think you're going to have 2 sections there. You're going to have that being one section, and then this, why does the balance of payments balance, is going to be another section. So it's almost like you're splitting this section into 2. First section, the first 3 dot points, the second section, the last one. Then the open economy model. Yeah, then I can see what you're doing here. You're going through the mining boom, the COVID. That'll be your following section. What you're doing here is then you're explaining why we've moved from deficit to surplus. Okay, so yeah, it's looking better, but this is going to confuse the heck out of the reader. Just, it's all over the place. It's just a lot of detail. It's not structured well. And the key thing here, Stephen, is what you're doing is you're using all of this text and just a very small table, but you're basically using text to try to explain to the reader what the balance of payments is. The reader hasn't got a chance. But if you actually do what I've suggested here, which is really a heavy emphasis on a nice clear table and using the numbers in the table to explain what the balance of payments means, that is explaining the numbers, then the reader's going to have a much better chance of understanding it all. So just rework that. But yeah, it looks like generally you're on the right track. Yeah, you're having trouble writing. I can see that. Although I know this is a first draft, but yeah, you're having trouble figuring out, I sense, having trouble figuring out the clearest and easiest way to explain a lot of what is going on here. Okay, but anyway, I've told you how to sort that out and generally what you need to say. I've told you need to take this section, split it into 2, and then this section will be the cause of Australia's current account surpluses, something like that. Then you'll have factors Drivers of recent, oh, no, not this. No, that's totally inconsistent with what you've got here. What you've got in these three models is that a mining boom by itself there will have very little impact on the current account. There, you're saying COVID has a big impact on the current account. Then in the next diagram, you're going to put them together. So this diagram will be in the previous section to explain why why that last equation holds, that one. But in this section, Australia's recent current account surpluses, you can have the mining boom, the COVID, then recession, then you're going to put them together and show what happens when both of them occur. And the result you're going to come up with is it's an increase in savings and a decrease in borrowing during COVID that led from the move from deficits to surpluses. That's totally inconsistent with all of this stuff. Yeah, it looks like this was taken from another source. So hopefully you can see that. And even this is inconsistent, because what you're saying in this model is that it's savings investment imbalance that determines the current account balance. That is, it's the position of the vertical line that determines the current account balance. Once that vertical line, S minus I, is positioned for a given year, then the current account balance is almost predetermined by the position of that vertical line. But then you're coming along and you're trying to say that the current account balance is not determined by S minus I, it's driven by structural factors and fiscal policy and domestic and global conditions. It's totally inconsistent. And then this, no, you've got the wrong approach here as well. What you need to be saying down here when you talk about the future of Australia's current account balance is that I would just say that the baseline assumption, or what's most likely, is Australia's current account balance will go from surplus back to deficit, because it's unlikely that Australia's savings or borrowing behaviour has experienced any structural change. But get the reader understanding that the future of Australia's current account balance is determined by the future path of savings and borrowing, S and I. So once again, you're trying to bring in all of these other factors that may affect the current account balance when we're really focusing on it from a savings investment perspective. So the baseline assumption is S and I will return to pre-COVID levels and the deficit will return to the current account balance will return to sort of 3 to 5% of GDP in terms of deficits. And then you can say something like, however, it is possible that Australia's savings rate may have been permanently changed, so increased by the COVID pandemic. So Australians might be more cautious now. Savings rates may have actually permanently increased to higher levels. And then you could talk about the impact that would have, if it's true, on Australia's current account balance, and it will be a result of, and it will actually lead to maybe the current account balance kind of staying close to where it is now, which is roughly in balance. Okay, but the important thing for you to understand is that all of this stuff you've got here is totally inconsistent with the savings minus investment equals current account balance approach to the balance of payments. Okay, so you need to work, you've even got it there. That is saying the current account balance is determined by savings and investment. And down here, you're saying the current account balance is determined by all of these other factors. Well, kind of which is it? Is the current account balance determined by all of those factors or the savings investment imbalance? Okay, and the answer in this report is savings and investment. So there you go, comments to sort of progress this along a little bit more. Yeah, so just keep working on it.